thank you guys so much for coming on the Rise Up
Thank you.
panel. Um, and hey, we're super happy to have you here. Frank, do you want to do introductions? I know my.
Yeah.
Yep.
Oh no, you go. No,
No, you.
Well, I mean, I met Mike back when I was in at DreamWorks, and I had heard your name before, and I knew you were a dope story artist, and then seeing you play pinball as I was walking in the foosball. Pinball. Oh yeah. You see, the foosball skills are real. I saw it firsthand. So that just putting a face to the name and the work was that was good. That was 2014-ish, somewhere around there. And then Aphton, I had seen a picture of you through Pixar, and I was like, oh wait, there's a
second one
in the story. and then so we met when I started at Pixar, and instantly like saw the work and your personality and everything. Like it was again nice to put a face and name to the real person. And I don't, even after this time, I don't even know how you guys got started, or what lit the fire under you both to do this. I guess that's a good way to start, maybe.
Yep, that's great.
You can go first.
No, Yates, please.
Yeah, I'm gonna think while you're talking.
I think I'll go first because I think my story has a little bit of Yates in it, so it'll be a nice like handoff exchange. So I grew up originally in Richmond, California. So I'm from the Bay. And so we grew up with Pixar not too far away from us, actually. And we were near the original Pixar when it was over in Point Richmond. So we passed by and we'd be like, back when it was just like nothing, Toy Story maybe. And so there's like, they're making cartoons over there and all this kind of stuff. And so I was like, oh, that's cool. And so that was always in the back of my mind, but it wasn't really something I thought about. And then I want to say like around 12, 13 middle school time, me and my family, we moved to Sacramento. And sorry for people out there who love Sacramento. If you listen to me enough, you know that like I just don't enjoy Sacramento very much because it was a culture shock for me coming from the Bay Area where you're hit with all these different diverse people. At least back in the day, things are changing, gentrification. But back in the day, you just exposed to all these different cultures, and then you go to Sacramento, specifically Elk Grove area, and like seeing Black classmates, like it was a rarity. There was a lot of like hunting and like, my classmates were really into like duck hunting and all this kind of stuff that I was just not familiar with at all. More power to you if you love it. But it was just like, I felt like completely out of my comfort zone and my element, and it felt kind of isolating. So I would turn to animation and stuff like that as like my escape. And I really started to draw more towards anime. And so it was through my junior year, I believe, I was able to take an elective course at a different school. And because I found out that over at Sheldon High School, they had an animation program over there. So I was like, I gotta get over there. I'm gonna figure out how to get to that class. I had my mom drive me there every day. She'd like come and pick me up and drive me over to the other school to take this animation course. And that was where I learned that could actually be a possibility of a job, a career. Up until this point, I don't know how things get on the TV. I would like draw little images and try to like staple them together and kind of just try to pull it across my bed to get some kind of animation thing going. But I didn't have any idea of like, I don't know, what do you do in between? So I was just like, I'm just going to be a comic book artist because I can't figure out, that's a whole other thing. I'll just do that. So going to Sheldon and having that exposure to animation really kind of started the whole thing of like, okay, well, how did I get in there? Then you start looking at art schools and you're like, these are crazy expensive. And at the time they had this, CalArts had this summer program called CISA. And so it was California Summer School of the Arts. And so it's all these little high schoolers get to go to Cal Arts and kind of like try it out, summer camp style. And, it was, like, oh my God, I love it. I'm around all my peers. We all like to draw. This is what I want to do. And so I was really dead set on that. There's some other schools, but I was like, that's the school I want to go to. And then that price reality dropped of how expensive it was. And you're like, oh my gosh. And so basically it was like, we can't afford this. So at the time I graduated high school was also when the recession hit. So we didn't have any money, or my parents lost their jobs. So it was like, there was a negative thing, but ended up being a weird positive because I was able to apply for loans. So, because if you're doing okay, that's how things work. If you're doing okay, you can't qualify for loans, but if you're struggling, you can qualify for these loans. So that's how that worked. So I went to school just like knowing that what awaited me was just a lot of debt. And I'm like, it's going to be fine. I'm going to get, I'm going to be there for a year, maybe a year and a half, and Pixar's just going to pick me up and it's going to be magical and we're going to be done. It's full of confidence. And then you get in there and there's so many talented people and like, you have no idea what you're doing. And so just like the reality check of like, I need to learn and grow set in. It's kind of weird. This experience of art school is kind of like this weird art puberty where you just like don't know who you are and you're stressed out because of money stuff and you're comparing yourself to your peers. So a lot of that was just like searching for who I was as an artist. What do the big studios want so I can get hired? What's the portfolio that got my previous classmate in? So let me just copy that portfolio exactly, and then that way I'll get in. And it wasn't until like my third year, the end of my third year, the beginning of the fourth year, that I just really started checking what I liked. And that was like in all aspects, because at first it was kind of like Whiplash-esque, where I was like, I'm just going to come in 6 a.m. and not leave till midnight. I'm just going to master 3 a.m. I'm just going to master animation. And then I started to step back and be like, no, you know what? Like, what are some of the things that help me be creative? What are the things that I care about? And once I started integrating those back in, I started to reflect on what I liked about storytelling in the first place. And something that really inspired me was Anthony Holden's little comics that he does about his family. Yeah. And so that I started doing little comics of my own. And so out of that came these comics that I did for Black History Month. It started out as Black History Month, but basically it was just my experience growing up as a Black kid in a more whitely predominated classroom, or just, world. And I just started doing them for myself. I didn't think they'd take off, but a lot of people related to them. And then a lot of people started sharing stories with me about them. And so I was doing that like on the side while I was doing my portfolio, but it was crazy how many people responded to that over my portfolio stuff. And so I was like, oh, okay, that's really cool. And from there, that's how I met Mike at the beginning. He messaged me and was just like, did you apply to the Pixar internship? And I was like, yeah, I have so much debt. Of course I have applied to the Pixar internship. And so from there, that's actually how Pixar like discovered some of my stuff. And from there, I did the Pixar internship where I met Mike, and I've been there ever since. I was like,
a great segue. Great
to Mike.
Segue to Mike.
Yeah.
Awesome, Aphton, beautiful. That was
Thank
awesome.
you.
I mean, yeah, that was great.
It's great. Yeah, I think for me, I grew up drawing a lot like everyone else, watching a lot of animation, watching a lot of anime. And I think in around middle school is when I started like drawing my own comics a lot. I think around that point, I kind of realized I wanted to do something creative, either comics or animation. And I think what led me to animation was I realized comics didn't make any money. And so I was like, oh, I should do animation. That seems like a stable paycheck. And so in high school, I ended up applying to like all the animation colleges around the country. And I got into most of them, but then when it was time to actually get those loans, like you were saying, Afton, it just like couldn't get any of them. And one of my parents was kind of against the whole thing. I think that might be the initial reason why I went towards animation, was so worried about the money aspect of it, because one of my parents was very much like, you can't live off of this. It's not like a stable job or anything like that. So after high school, I couldn't go to college for about a year. And I remember just going to Chicago because I lived in Northwest Indiana, and Chicago was about an hour away. And so I would just drive over there and do figure drawing like once a week. And there was like this illustrator there who kind of saw that I was interested in getting into the field. And so he just started helping me, like teaching me how to draw, like figure drawing more technically. And so I spent that year basically redoing my portfolio to try again the next year. And then I also had heard like an interview with Pete Docter about how when he was in school on summer vacation, because he lived in Minnesota, he would like cold call different animation studios and then they just let him in. And I was like, you know what? I got nothing to lose here. I'm just going to do that. So I started like sending cold call emails to all these animation studios. And I sent to like the Minnesota one. I don't know why, because I was really far. And they were like, yeah, sure, come by. And it was like a 3-hour drive. And I was like, I can't do that. But eventually one of them in Chicago had like answered me. And they were like, yeah, come by. And it was the studio that does like the Twix commercials. Do you remember those old 2D ones
Oh,
for the cereal?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. What were they called? What's the studio?
Calabash
Yeah,
Animations.
yeah, in Chicago. Yeah,
Yep.
yeah, of course. Yeah.
So I went there over that summer and just like, I wasn't good enough to get a job, but like they like interviewed me. I had to put together a portfolio, but the guy was like super nice. And he was like, you could just come in and use all of our equipment and just ask us questions if you have any. So I just would come in like every day over that whole summer and taught myself how to animate. I had like the Illusion of Life and that animation survival kit. And then I would just like do tests on like the old lunchbox thing. And so then the next year I applied to colleges again and I got like a pretty big scholarship from Ringling.
Oh, yeah.
It was about, I want to say it was like 30% of the tuition.
God.
And then I still couldn't get the loan for the rest. But then I went to my grandmother and then she was like, all right, I'll do it. And so she actually co-signed the loan for me that let me go to school.
And
Yeah. Thanks, Grandma.
yeah, thanks, Grandma. Yeah.
So then after that, I ended up going to Ringling College of Art and Design for computer animation.
Yep.
And yeah, there was like a different feeling. I think one thing that kind of helped me was I never knew if I was going to be able to come back the next year, like if I was going to be able to get the money. So I would constantly build a portfolio every year just in case I need to search for work. And then I think sophomore year, I applied to the Disney internship for story.
Yep.
And they let me in and I got that one. And I was like super surprised because I had one piece of story material in the whole portfolio. It was like, I had like CG models and character designs and random stuff. And there was just like one animatic I had put together and it was like a super personal story. And then they seemed to really respond to that. And so there is kind of where I started to learn like feature storyboard stuff.
Nice.
And then after that, I interned at Pixar the next year, which was super great because it's more of like the toolbox of like storyboarding. And that was like super intense. And then after graduating, I went and I worked at DreamWorks with Frank. And then stayed there for about a year. And then from there went to Pixar. And I've been there since.
Okay. Yeah. That's awesome, man. I wanted to ask because we were talking about kind of like how to sort of, and you guys can like back me up on this, like how to sort of find your voice and put it into your art. I was wondering, if we can sort of rewind a little bit. Growing up, can you guys sort of cite anything that sort of, any of these things that sort of had huge influences on your aesthetic or your taste or anything like that? Whether it was kind of like, I don't know, like Sailor Moon, or like I watched a lot of Muppet Babies when I was young for some reason. I don't know why, but like anything I'm just trying to find out, like, I'm curious to see what like has shaped your voice and your aesthetic, you know, to what it is now. You know, where you guys were influenced, like growing up.
So many influences. Where to begin? I mean, I think I just absorbed everything anime, and I don't know why that stuck out more than regular cartoons. Because I liked those too, but so growing, it's interesting because I feel like the way I draw isn't necessarily an influence of like the stuff that inspires me. So it's weird. I kind of went around back to more children's illustration style in my actual drawing, but there was a hardcore time period where I was like, I am going to draw anime. That's all that there is. And so storytelling wise, I think I was really influenced by like the Ghibli stuff. I loved, I watched it before I even realized, I was pretty young, before I even realized like that it took me a really long time to realize that My Neighbor Totoro and Kiki's Delivery Service was the same people who did Spirited Away and all that kind of stuff. Because I watched it when I was a little kid. But to me, Spirited Away was like one of my biggest influences, and I didn't realize why at the time, but I moved to Sacramento and I felt out of place. And then I watched Spirited Away and I was like, man, I'm clicking with this really hard. And now I'm like, oh, obviously, very clearly why that influenced me so much. But I think the scale and the actual danger that those characters were up against didn't feel like anything I was really seeing in a lot of Disney and Pixar films. And that was really new and refreshing. And then another animated show that I refer to all the time is Avatar: The Last Airbender, once again, because of the world building and the scale of just like the fact that they could do this in a TV show. I didn't think it was possible. I thought there's some unseen restrictions. And now it's funny because now it's on Netflix, and so now there's all these new fans, and I was like, we've been here, don't come at me now. My sister's watching it now, and she's all like, she's like, Uncle Iroh, I'm like, don't even start, okay? When I was these new fans, so that's fine. But and then I'm trying to think of other things that inspired me. I mean, there was I don't know, so many things along the way that I'm sure everyone already knows, like Samurai Champloo, and like so many really cool like there was animation that we knew, and then I feel like they kind of like bended animation, and I think that's what was so interesting to me, is like the rules that I thought were created by Western animation, they weren't bound by. And so maybe that's why it stuck out to me more. And characters weren't just black and white. There was like gray. One that I talk to Yates about all the time was Full Metal Alchemist. I really got into that for a minute there. That was a deep throwback. That like
People are supporting you on the chat. They're like,
yeah, they know.
Yeah.
Yeah, so it was a lot of anime. I went to a lot of conventions back in the day. It was a deep anime love. But now that I don't know, now that I'm an actual board artist, I am really inspired graphically. The anime and stuff is still like storytelling wise, is still something that inspires me. But graphically, I'm a lot more inspired by illustrators like Quentin Blake and stuff like the Peanuts and Dennis the Menace. Like, I don't know why that like suddenly I came back, or it just fit with the style that I already kind of naturally drew. And it took a hard time to accept that, because I was like, I went through the whole phase where I'm like, I'm gonna do anime. And then I was like, no, I'm gonna draw like, I want to draw like Corey Loftus. I'm gonna draw like Corey Loftus. I'm gonna do that like Disney-ish style, and the stuff is beautiful. And people were just like, and then I draw a little stupid squiggle, and they'd be like, "Oh my god, I love that!" And I was like, "Are you kidding me? I spent so much time doing this other thing. No, I don't want to draw that way." And they're like, "I don't know. We really like. I don't know. I'm responding to this little charming character thing you did." And so it took a while to accept it, and I think rediscovering Quentin Blake kind of helped me, like mentally, like, oh, this is beautiful. Okay, I see, it's a different charm to it. So I don't know. It's very interesting how I try and merge those two, like the more complicated storytelling with a very simplified drawing style. So that's where I've arrived.
Yeah, I think for me, it's probably very similar. anime was a big influence, probably starting from like Dragon Ball Z. And I think the thing that stood out the most for me there was just wanting to see what happened next. Because I think a lot of the other animated TV stuff that I was watching prior to then was like, it kind of resets every episode. And I think when you have like the continuation, it really draws you in. And I think that's the thing that I always wanted to do, was to like keep people going on stuff. I think the other big ones was like Akira. I remember like watching that in like middle school, and then that one really blew my mind just because it wasn't like a PG animated thing. And I was like, oh wow, you can do this? You could do anything in animation like this? Yeah, and then Princess Mononoke was also a really big one. And I remember for that one, I found it in like a Blockbuster and didn't even know who Miyazaki was or anything. And I just watched it and was like, oh my gosh, what is this? And then from there, yeah, like some of the similar stuff, Full Metal Alchemist. I remember watching that one before it would come on TV, and I had like LimeWire or something and would torrent each episode. Yeah.
Oh, man.
Right. Yeah. I gotta.
I think what else?
Frank, you did the same thing.
With many things, yeah, music. This recorded. I didn't do it.
I never torrented. I want to go on record for the recording that I didn't torrent not one song.
I think the statute of limitations is over.
I'd play through the song. You would.
Yeah. So, I mean, I think we'd be remiss to not talk about your guys' path into animation. So what was like that for you guys? So what was your path breaking into animation industry, the challenges and all that kind of stuff, man? Let's talk about it. Because I know we all have our own paths.
Yeah, I think specifically the struggle part, because I think, you guys kind of touched on how you got into it, but like, and after you mentioned some stuff that I went through as well, and I think a lot of people go through when you're playing that comparison game and you're looking at everyone else's work and like, oh man, all right, so I know what I need to do now. And then it seemed like for both of you, there was something that the thing that clicked was like putting yourselves into the work and digging deeper into that on that personal side. And maybe I don't know if there's a struggle with that, like just to kind of spin Bobby's question, like a struggle with putting yourself out there like that versus like, just doing something more safe that you thought, would work with getting a job. You ever feel that it was tough being vulnerable like that?
Oh, yes.
You want me to go first? You go first.
It's up to you. Do you have some hot examples? You go. You sound prepared.
Right. Yeah, I think it was like in school, I had like a teacher who would always say, like, put yourself into the work, and it makes it more specific. But I think it took a while for that to really mean anything. I think it was all like, I'm trying to make something cool. I'm trying to make something cool, and not realizing that the more specific you make something, the better it usually is. And then I think once I kind of got a grasp of that, it became like, I started to notice there was like some places that just didn't respond to what I wanted to do. Like I remember in school having an interview with a studio, and they were looking at like my boards, and it was like a multi-person interview. I don't know if they do that anymore. And then they literally told me, you should draw and do stories like this person next to you. And then I think that was like one of the situations where I felt like, oh, I don't think I would be a good fit at this studio, as opposed to I should change who I am. Because at that point I was already, I think at that stage of like, I'm doing the kind of stories I like to tell. And a lot of it wasn't, I think I was already to the point where like my portfolio in general wasn't anything that the studios I was applying to was making. It was all stuff that I wanted to make. And the ones that really responded to it, because I guess it's like, no one's going to really make your stuff right out of school generally.
Sure.
But if you're putting yourself into it, then it shows you have a point of view.
Yeah.
And then that's usually the thing, at least in the story, that we look for the most, is like, what is that point of view and how is it different than everyone else who we have in our team now? And I think that's the thing that really makes you stand out. Because like skill-wise and technically, you can always get better. But if you're not attempting to tell the right stories, that's something that's really a little bit harder to teach. And it's something where if we hire you, then what are you actually bringing to the studio? And I think once I kind of realized that, I started to get a lot more offers from then on out.
Yeah, it's interesting because I almost have an exact same story from Yates. I feel like there's always somebody who's trying to be like, oh, a teacher who's like, oh, you should board like your other classmate. And I'm like, there's always one. And it's like you start to get to a point where you have to start to filter and realize that, oh, maybe they don't know what they're talking about. I think it's interesting because I think when you putting yourself in your work and you're trying to figure out how to put yourself in your work, there's like two extremes: the person who doesn't listen to any criticism, and then the person who listens to all the criticism. And putting yourself in your work doesn't always mean that you get to tell the stories that you want to tell. I think doing your personal work, go for it, do all you put yourself in there. But there's something to be said about still being able to put yourself in a prompt that you didn't necessarily get to choose. And that was something that was really interesting when Yates and I did portfolio review, because we could tell when certain people had a class assignment because we'd see it several times, like whatever, Little Red Riding Hood. So it's like, okay, everybody got the Little Red Riding Hood assignment. But then there'd be some people who were able to find their own way to make it personal for them. Not like, oh, they added like, their mom into the story, but they were like, I'm going to find my own way to make this comical or dramatic and I was like, I feel like this person has a very specific style and they did what they were supposed to do, but they put themselves into it. And I think that's the job is trying to find a way to make things interesting for yourself. And I think I respected that. I respect seeing people's original work and then seeing how they deal with a box and they think in every inch of that box and make it really entertaining. And then when it comes to like, not comparing yourselves to other people, you do it all the time, but I think it gets to the point where you get I got like exhausted, where it's just like, I can't be anybody else. My classmates are super talented, but I can't do what they're doing. And so I don't know, it got to a point where it's not even like, I'm going to consciously choose to be myself. It's just like, this is what I know. This is what I like. I'm just going to take a risk and say that I think someone else probably out there likes it too. And I'm going to take what I learned and try to tell that story the best way I possibly can. But literally by senior year, I was just like, I already tried doing it what I think the studios would like way. So let me just try the my own personal way. I don't know how to explain it. It's not like one thing that suddenly clicks and I'm suddenly like, oh, it's me being myself. It's like a lot of little things that like lead you to.
Can I ask you real quick, as an aside, Aphton, how did you, this is kind of a silly question, but like, how did you find that confidence in yourself of just kind of like, oh, well, I am me, this is who I'm going to be, and then I'm just going to market myself as this way, or I'm just going to tell these stories? Because I know for myself, that was such a struggle, unlike for me. I just, I knew who I was, but I wasn't sure that the industry wanted to see this kind of, I don't know, like voice or anything like that. But like, how did you, I don't know, enlighten us? I'm gonna stop.
I mean, I don't think I've like, I don't know, people, as you start to get to this point where people are like, oh, your perspective is so unique. And you're like, I don't know. I'm just like, I said it jokingly, but seriously, I think it gets to a point where I'm just like, I'm just gonna start doing stuff. Not like I just like confidently was like, this is me on a page. It was just like, you start doing stuff and it feels like why you started doing art in the first place. Like when I originally started doing art, it was for fun, it was for me. And when I get to a point in my work where I can make myself have that fun. I don't want to go back
Mm-hmm.
to the other version, and I can feel it. I don't do it all the time. I'm not 100% confident. I think I get better at it because I practice, but there's times where I've just been cranking at boards. And I'm like, I'm not putting my all into this. And then when I start to have fun with my pages at work or whatever, then it's like, this is why I like drawing. People who are interested in story, I think all of us, like crazy people, at least I do, like, have envisioned little dumb stories in our head and be laughing at our own jokes and like all that kind of creepy stuff that our parents were like, what's wrong with them? And I think when you get into that space while you're working again, where you're like, I'm having fun. And I just literally just started thinking of stuff that I enjoy or scenarios that entertained me, and see if I can put them in a film. Sometimes, especially when we're bored, I think Yates and I will just like find a way to put these scenarios into the boards because it's funny to us. It's not like, I think we're all trying to be ourselves in our work constantly, but I think just starting on it, and I think doing those comics really helped me.
Yeah.
Because it was just like a quick little short way to be like, here's what's going on in my life, and people like really enjoyed finding out that aspect about me. And I was like, oh, okay, here's some more stupid things that I've been thinking about during the week. And yeah.
I mean, speaking of like just being yourself and finding things about you both, like just it's no surprise that part of our identity is being Black artists. And so I'm curious what how has even not just recent events, but just events that's gone on when it came to things going on in the Black community, like how do you think, if it has at all, affected your work and what you choose to create? Like, was it partly like it kind of took the wind out of your sails, or did you kind of get a little boost of like, man, I need to get this into my work somehow, or I need to do something, like this is my outlet, I need to, like, how has these events been for you creatively?
Doing other projects. I'm sorry, you're saying like in regards to doing like studio work or something?
No, just any work, like your own or studio work. Like how's the the events that affect Black community affect your output creatively?
This has been a very weird and surreal situation to go through, and I think I myself like to draw when I process stuff, and I didn't realize I was doing that. It's just something you learn when you're an adult, where you're like, oh, this has been my therapy in a way. And so usually I've been turning to drawing and stuff like that. And I feel like as of recent, I've just now been able to start drawing again. When everything first happened, it just kind of I didn't want to do anything. And I felt bad about that because I was like, well, we're not going to process this if we don't draw. But it just didn't feel like even that felt like a good enough solution. So it was hard. So I don't know. I think now I was able to do some pieces to donate. And I think just taking the pressure off of having to do an art piece about it specifically helped me. So I think that's what the weird pressure I was putting on myself. So, and just getting back to like, just draw because you want to draw, not because you have to address this terrible thing that happened to like our culture. That's not on you. And so that helped me get back into doing it again for myself.
Do you?
Sorry, Mike. Oh, sorry.
Sorry. Do you guys, Mike and Aphton, do you guys mind me asking how you guys are feeling?
Sure. Yates, you want to go first since
Yeah, I think it is like a really tough time in general. I think personally, I go through like waves. I think I'm finally kind of starting to even out now. But yeah, and in terms of your question, Frank, I think it's like I'm similar to Afton, where I kind of process it through art, and I haven't quite gotten there yet. But I think in terms of work, I have been trying to either put more of that into the stuff that I'm doing there, or even just focusing more on like recruiting and teaching and that kind of stuff. But yeah, it's definitely like something I do want to explore more, but I guess there's like this feeling of almost like sorting your thoughts and trying to figure out what it is that I want to say, and is that helpful?
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know if you guys have felt like this because of these recent events happening while we're in quarantine. You know, it takes a bit of weight off, because you know when you're at the studio and you're feeling some kind of way, you kind of have to like put on that smile and make sure you're like nothing ever happened, basically, or like nothing's going on, or like I know I've felt like that sometimes, you know, where it's, you know, because then if you're quiet or something, like, oh, why are you being antisocial, or why are you not eating out, or why, you know, because not everyone's aware of what's going on in the Black community. So how has that been for you guys in this current situation, being in quarantine, dealing with it, versus, you know, other things that have happened, having to be, you know, around people?
I feel like one of the benefits of this time around and people being in quarantine is a lot of people were a lot more vocal about how upset they were and reaching out to us, and you know, people were like shaken out of their bubble of awareness. So I didn't feel like I had to do that. I feel like more than anything, people were coming to me, and because I'm used to having to deal with this and process it and be upset and frustrated and not expecting anyone outside of my race to give me any comfort. So to have people be like, "Are you okay?" and be upset, it was like, yeah, bad time. Like, yeah, like get angry. Like, let's see some, like, I think that was what was exciting. I watched like the LA council, whatever they're responding to the police. And they were just these like angry Karens yelling at like the police department, like about how they need to step up and get their act together. And I was like, yeah, all right, it's about time. At the same time, it's frustrating because like there's all these great initiatives going on and stuff. And part of me is like, where was this 3, 4, 5 years ago? Like we've been having these same exact conversations when I was in high school. I'd be talking to my classmates, and you know, they'd be like, "Oh, I don't feel comfortable talking about this," and the All Lives Matter thing would just like, and so I vacillate between being like infuriated, like that we're still having this conversation over at like 10 years to date, and we're at the same place we were before, but then still trying to be positive and being like, but change is happening, and it feels like it's at a larger scale, and keeping that momentum and not feeling exhausted, because I think that's the thing, is it's exhausting to feel good and then feel guilty for feeling good, because you're like, there's a bunch of work still to be done. Yeah, and that's where having animation really helps. And like I talked to my team, and I was just basically like, there's a lot of heavy stuff going on, but like I would not want to be anywhere else. I'd want to be working on animation and making films that portray different people of color, so that we can influence the world about it. So it's nice having this quarantine time to kind of like, I don't know, to not be at work and not be put together during this stuff.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, so, you know, kind of centering around this conversation around like voice of like, what are some of the things that inspire you guys now, moving forward? Has it changed since you were a kid? Obviously, it probably has, but just sort of like, you know, sort of like having a voice in animation. Like, what do you think, Mike?
Yeah. I think now what inspires me is such a broad sense. It's like no longer just animation or even films. I feel like I get a lot more inspiration from just like reading history or current events. There's just always like little things that I'll read and I'll like, oh, that's an idea there. That's something interesting I'd like to explore.
Yeah.
And I kind of go about it in like a way of like, if I read something where I don't really have a good answer to whatever that question is,
Yeah.
I think, oh, that's an interesting story, because it's not like a clear black or white thing, and those usually lead me to more interesting story ideas.
Yeah. What about you, Afton? What do you think?
Yeah, I mean, I was just trying to think of stuff too. I mean, but it's kind of hard. I mean, I think the things that I still were inspired by still inspire me. I'm always finding some new anime that I just missed because I was in the States. Like I discovered when I was in college, I discovered Crayon Shin-chan, and I was like, this is the best thing I've ever seen. This is the cutest thing. But then like live action and uh, just going back down the illustration route, because I feel like now that I got back into the world of illustration, like there's so many artists and stuff that I'm just like, what would this look like if we were to make this move? And like, I don't know, there's a lot of rules, and they're important rules when you're first learning how to draw, that are just completely, but once you decide who you're going to be as an artist, that can completely be broken in illustration. And it's just really fun to pick apart that. And we have tools that at our disposal that we can do anything with, and I think that inspires me a lot lately. And it sounds cheesy, but I mean, I don't like life, but like seriously, like,
Easy.
but like I don't know, it's just
Jan says Shin-chan forever.
Yeah, it's solid. If you guys don't watch it, you should. It's adorable. But I don't know, seriously, like talking to people or like being around somebody on a bus, which we can't do anymore, but being next to people on a bus, I'd be like, I'm writing this down for later, or like a cashier who's doing something really specific, and like just those little moments that you can't really put into words, but like visually, like you're like, this is going to be gold, I'm going to board this. And I don't know, just sometimes not being around film has been really inspirational, just because like, you know, everything's so manicured and like really thought out, and just seeing how like life actually plays out, and then seeing if I can put it into my work. That's been inspiring.
For sure. And then something. So we can sort of close out because it's closing into an hour, but like, what do you guys think are like, what sort of words of wisdom would you guys give to up and coming artists that want to do what you want to do? So a lot of Rise Up Animation is just kind of like helping people kind of break into the animation industry. You guys have done it. It's a hustle. It was hard. And so share your stories, man. Share your raw stories, and what kind of advice that you can give our, Rise Up Animation community. What do you think?
Yates,
yeah, I think the biggest thing is just not, I know it sounds cheesy, but not giving up. Because I guess
it's not cheesy.
Specifically for me, I always think about like that year between high school and college where like my whole family was basically telling me to give up. Like, just go get a job or just go to school and do something else. You were smart, stuff like that. And then I think it's like you have to, if it's what you want, just really try to do everything you can to get there. And it might take a while. I think that's the other thing, and just being okay with it and enjoying like the journey.
Mm-hmm. Going through that, Mike, like when you say like keeping up and don't give up, I think there's also a little bit about like with you of just like being sort of discipline specific, right? What do you think about that?
Yeah. It's like not gonna, I guess the way I always thought about it was I'm gonna do everything I can to try to put myself in that position, and like thinking of like, what can I do today that will get me closer to the goal?
Yeah.
A lot of times it's
that's so cool. You sound like Rocky right now. You sound like Rocky Balboa right now.
Rocky, but about drawing.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think it's like asking people questions if you don't know the answer, getting as much information as you can. Also, just being honest with yourself about where you are and knowing where you need to be, and just knowing it's going to take time to get there.
Yeah, that's awesome. Aphton, do you think?
Advice. What advice? I think for me, my journey to becoming a board artist was very stressful for a variety of different reasons, but mostly just because I was so determined to do it that I feel like I spent the 3 out of the 4 years of my college experience stressed out instead of enjoying the process. It is hard. I get, especially with some people who are trying to be students, and things are expensive. And I was just like, I just need to pay this off. I do wish, and I'm not kidding. And so that really influenced the journey. And it wasn't until my 4th year that I like enjoyed the time that I had at the studio and just like stopped working and read some other literature and went to an art gallery show and did some other stuff that my work improved. So it's kind of like what Yates said about like you'll get there eventually. And I think maybe you don't have to give yourself like a kidney stone or whatever while you're at it. I don't even know if kidney stones are produced by stress, but whatever. The thing is like like I guess having faith in yourself, like believing in yourself and enjoying the journey. And you're not going to be perfect right away. Like it's going to take continual iterations. And I think I would just like beat myself up. Like we have to be the best. We don't have time for like screwing up, and like that's part of it. So yeah,
for sure. That last part was a big one, I think, because I think that is something that I've assumed myself getting into it, and I know other people have talked about that. Kind of like you like it was this perfect path, or like you have to be, it's like you were born with this gift and you just naturally went to it, and it was like it just happened like, man, it's like no, there's some work involved, there's some
Yeah, real quick, there's one thing that a teacher said. I won't put the teacher on blast, but there's one thing that a teacher told me while I was in class, and he was like, the only reason why someone else in school is better than you is because they want it more than you do. And I was like, I want it pretty bad. And I was just like, now as an adult, I'm like, that's the dumbest thing I've ever heard. Like, we're all at different levels. So I went to my room and I was just like, I want it really bad. I'm gonna try harder. And it's just like, that's such bull. Like, where it's just like, no, everyone's at different places, and like, and celebrating where they're at. And then also like, knowing, what's that word? There's some word that I heard once that's like accepting where you are, but also being excited about like the new challenges ahead, and like not enjoying the time where you're at while you're growing.
Yeah, I think it's that balance, because at least for me, I make my best work when you're having fun. And even like looking at portfolios, it's like you can always kind of tell when someone had fun when they did something. And I think you have to always consider that as well when you're making your work. It's like, if it's not fun for you, how is it going to be fun for someone else to watch?
Right. Yeah.
Yeah, definitely.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, and I want to put this out there. Working with these two on Soul, like from the point of meeting until and then getting to Soul, like just seeing the progression, even just like I don't know if you guys noticed it in each other, but just it was really refreshing to see you guys step into this power within yourselves, when it came to whether it was like speaking up and voicing opinions, even if whoever was in the room, regardless of who heard it, just being in there and putting it all out there, just to because we're all after this same goal, and not everyone is comfortable with speaking out against things that may not be working because of who did it, or who's running things or whatever. So that was really refreshing and great to witness, you know, being on that project with you guys, because we hadn't worked that closely on a project before, even if we were on the same project before, you know. So that was pretty cool from my perspective.
Thanks.
Yeah,
It was
man.
nice working with you too.
Yeah. Yeah.
Mhm.
Someday,
Should we,
I guess.
should we take some questions in the?
Oh yeah,
I know
I got a ton here.
over,
So
maybe there's a
if
few.
you guys don't mind, I got sorry. You guys hear me? So Sharanya Alonia says, how to step into the industry if you're an outsider and don't have sufficient experience in storyboarding? Does production houses and studios consider the quality over experience? What do you guys think?
I think Yates should answer this because he's been to more studios than I have.
Yeah.
I find in general the experience stuff is to weed out people from applying. I always find like if someone's really good, then that nobody cares anymore. But I think it definitely helps you to learn having the experience. But I think if you can figure out how to learn it on your own, then it doesn't really matter.
Yeah, that's awesome. Sharanya Alonye. Janice Rim, I'm a board artist in TV with a dream to work on feature, in feature someday. What's your advice to make that transition possible?
Yates? I keep throwing it to him, but I literally I interned at Pixar and I'm like, here we go. I mean, from what I understand, it's just listen, I had loans to pay off. I had
We all have loans.
very focused. I had those CalArts loans. I mean, but correct me if I'm wrong, Yates, but I think it's applying for the feature jobs and interviewing like you. I feel like there's a lot of pros to working in TV because of how quickly you're able to move and stuff like that and think on your toes.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't think you're lacking anything that we're looking for in story or in feature story. Yeah, I don't. Any other suggestions, Yates?
Yeah, I think just doing work outside of work. I think a lot of times what the features are looking for is more of like your voice. So I think it's always helpful to just have like side projects and stuff like that where you're building your portfolio, not from necessarily the stuff you're doing at the job.
Right on, man. So the next question is our homie Sylvester Massey. So his question is, what are some of the exercises you do for storyboards that help you to level up? Can you see this, Aphton? Are you reading it as well? Yeah. Oh, I thought I was the only one. Okay.
No, I found it. Storyboarding tips. Well, every once in a while, I feel like we're super busy these days, but when we weren't slammed and when I was first hired and very, ready to please, I did a lot more and I should probably brush up on it more, but just film studies, drawing shots from films and seeing how they made those choices. Something that I would do before I got hired that I enjoyed is I'd read a book or a chapter of a book and see if I could board that scene, because we always as creative people, we always have a picture in our head of how we would play this thing out. And
Yep.
So that's something that I do for fun.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Awesome. How to work on perspective, enjoying materials, and words, any checks to share. Okay, so Sharanya's question is like, when you guys are boarding, I would pare it down to how do you guys draw dynamic angles in perspective in that sort of sense?
I wish I could tell you. The perspective are enemies. And I try my best. I try my darndest. And every time we have a performance review, because we have one after we finish every show, and it's usually really good. It's like a, and then they'll be like, just this one thing you could work on is your perspective, and that ruins my entire week because I know it's true. And then I just go on this like quest to master perspective, and it's just not.
And
It's not for me.
You lose interest in like 30 seconds.
I hate perspective so much. But the thing about perspective that I think is important is just it helps you to establish your world. It helps you to, it's a story element almost. And so it is not my strength, but I do try and use it as much as possible when necessary for the story I'm trying to tell. Yates is far better at it. I think I've come into Yates' office a couple times and been like, I need help with perspective.
Sorry. Yeah, it's fine. It's okay. I'm terrible at it too.
See?
Yates,
We both have jobs. We both have jobs, so it's doable.
Any quick tips?
I feel like you only have to be so good at it. It's like, I don't really know what I'm doing. I'm just good enough to where it doesn't stand out. And then you're good.
So what does that mean, Yates? So it doesn't, your boards don't have to be necessarily like on point perspective, one to one to one to one. You can fake it.
Yeah.
Fake it.
Yeah. Like it's, almost perspective. As long as it doesn't look broken and pull you out of the story, it's good enough.
And I read something, or I saw something somewhere where they're talking about like, the beautiful Miyazaki backgrounds and all of that, and how they actually aren't real perspective. It's all about the storytelling and what you need it to serve the story. But y'all should practice. Every once in a while, they'll be like, Aphton, can you just tie down some more of your backgrounds? And I'm like, no, I can't. So I'll go in there and try. I'm very good at getting some abstract shapes in there and just calling it a day.
It's really funny. Fuck it. Yeah, sometimes fuck it. Where are we? Where are we, Afton?
Lily,
anime we can Afton?
favorite anime. That's such a hard question. Favorite. I don't know.
Come on, Afton. I'm disappointed that
there's too many. I mean, it's like asking what's your favorite animated film. It's just like it's such an open-ended question.
It should be an immediate thing that you should be ready for.
Just one. Yates, do you have your one favorite? Because I have things that change.
Full Metal Alchemist.
Full Metal Alchemist is your favorite? Okay.
Because it's the best. It's like 100% solid story, great world building.
Because I have stuff that's changing. Because like right now, like there's
and
stuff
it doesn't go on forever.
Like My Hero Academia just came out, and it's like I'm really into that right now.
Yeah, but you can't make it your favorite until it's over. It could go off a cliff.
That's a great point. Like just timeless. Just think timeless. You don't have to think now. Just think timeless.
It's still too hard for me.
Jesus. Afton, come on.
I watch a lot of anime.
Avatar or something.
That's not a real anime. It's not a real anime. I love it, but that's like half cartoon, half anime. Yeah, I don't know. Should I just say Full Metal Alchemist and wiggle my way out of this one?
Sure.
Probs.
Like I don't, yeah. And then there's like classic ones, like there's Sailor Moon. Like where do you categorize that? Like that's just, I don't know.
What are your thoughts on getting? What are your thoughts on the current animation industry and do you see getting better? I think is that Tiffany? What what are your thoughts on the current animation industry and how could it grow?
I mean, it's doing pretty good right now, y'all. It's the only thing we can do from home. So if you guys want to hop in here, now's the time. Like, I mean, I'm excited to see what people are coming out with because there's more and more studios that are like snatching up people, and there's a lot of I don't know, there's a lot of interesting developments happening, and I'm excited for diversity on a lot of different levels to come out of it. So yeah.
Yeah, that's awesome. And then Mike, you're gonna have to answer one of these questions at some point.
Yeah, carry your weight.
Yeah. Is Pixar still nope? Let's see. Sorry. Really quick.
What's a question for Michael?
From Michael?
For Mike from Samantha Tabares. People have a lot of questions both in the comments and in here about your cold calling, so I think that's an interesting.
I know.
So the person was like, when it came to cold calling, were you ever afraid of appearing like you were just using people to reach your goals? I struggle with that a lot when I'm just genuinely curious about what people do.
For the companies? No. I think didn't even think about it. That's a good question though. I think I was just desperate, and then I was like really honest in the emails that I would send, like where I was, and it was never asking for something specifically. It was just like, do you have like any advice or anything that you can even give me? And then they would always go above and beyond that. Well, not always, but the ones that were the most helpful would.
Yeah. Yeah, for sure. Yeah. For sure. Yeah. Mike, you're an artist that I look up to in terms of just kind of like putting yourself out there and all that kind of thing. What are you doing? I mean, you must be pitching your own stuff, or that must be a thing that you must be doing.
Yeah, been pitching a lot of stuff.
Yeah.
we can't give our stuff away.
Yeah, man. I don't want to give it. I don't want you to give it away, but it's like.
Oh, we won't.
I'm sure.
This live chat. I don't want our ideas sucked up in the live chat.
Yeah. Yeah. Can we use this live chat to come up with ideas for?
Yeah, better yet, why don't you guys give us some ideas?
Don't do that.
I know that you're pitching your own ideas at like Pixar. So I mean, like, whatever. I mean, that's awesome. I mean, I can just only validate you in that sense. In Aphton, how dare you?
What?
You saw through my thing.
Yeah, I see how. Trust me, I'm trying to get paid, but the loans are gone, but that doesn't mean I'm not still trying to get paid. But just in general, like for people who are, even when I did have a job, I think it's just good to just constantly have ideas, right? That's how I got hired. It's just even when I'm working on a project, I think it's kind of hard to stop. Like, just keep drawing stuff. I have like a journal that's like nonsense probably to anyone, but if I have an idea, I'll just write some stuff down and put it away for later. I think we should just all be having ideas, because no one's idea is better than somebody else. It's just how we tell it.
Afton, do you feel like you're kind of like making headway in like a big studio like Pixar? do you kind of feel like you're kind of like, oh, I'm proclaiming my identity and kind of like doing that kind of thing, or like how do you think you're doing that?
Yeah, actually.
That's awesome. I mean, that sounds amazing. Afton, really, really, really.
Well, actually, surprisingly, I think it was one of those things where, like I said, so I went through this phase at CalArts where I was like, I'm gonna go to Pixar. And then by second year, I was like, you know what? If a studio just even looks at me, that would be cool. And then by the time fourth year came around, I was like, oh, Pixar wants me? That's cool. And then I was like, I'll just ride this experience out. I'm probably not gonna get hired. And then I got hired and I was like, oh, okay, that's cool. And then I think it's just, I think so more than anything, I think sometimes I've been surrounded by artists and stuff at the studio that have supported me and propelled me sometimes when I wasn't even really thinking about that.
Right.
I mean, it's always been a goal of mine, but like I'm just trying to master storyboarding. And then the other people have been like, Afton's really got this really cool thing she's doing. And so because of that, I think, and my own volition too, I'm really excited about where things are going and just the positive stuff that we're making over at Pixar. So
Yeah. That's awesome. Yeah. Well, I'll let you guys go. I know I took a lot of your time today, but thank you guys for meeting with us. Afton, Michael, we'll keep in touch. And
Sure.
please let me know how your things go, how your parts go, and I think it's gonna be good.
yeah,
Thanks
it
for
was
having
fun.
us.
The time went by fast.
I know it did, really did. But thank you guys so much. Thank you guys so much. I really appreciate it.
Yeah.
Thanks.
Okay.
Alright.
Thank you for everyone for.
Yeah, thanks everyone for
Oh, yeah,
watching.
we're still here. Yeah, sorry.
Some people, I was keeping track. Some people were just are hype people. Some people were just plugging comics and like they're like, Yates got a comic, Urban Legends.
Oh yeah, Urban Legends on Amazon now.
Geez. Yeah.
Urban Legends. Urban Legends. Check it out. Check it out. Check it out. Check it out. Check it out.
They had like the Tumblr links ready. But yeah, follow us on social media. I guess we're out on social media and yeah.
And listen to the Culture Podcast.
Yeah.
The podcast is dope. It's
If
so
you're not tired of our voices, then
it's so good. It's so good. It's so good. Thank you guys so much. We really appreciate it. Thank you guys.
Thanks. See ya.
all right. See ya.
Bye guys.